First things first, you're in town this weekend for bragging rights. Find yourself in the Fatal 4-Way for the World Championship. Tell us a little bit what we can expect from that match.
As a wrestling fan, I think this match will steal the show. You know, you got four guys, all former world heavyweight champions. Myself, Rey Mysterio, Batista, and The Undertaker, the current champion. And I think anybody can walk away with the title in this match, and that's to me why it's intriguing, at least. So you have four very hardworking individuals who on the show that is themed bragging rights, because you know the two shows are sort of feuding. You know, yeah. I think we're the better show. You know, I know the guys in the match think they're the better show, so it'll be good. A lot of pride on the line. I think it'll definitely steal the show.
And you did mention you guys being the better show. That's something I want to get to real quick, though. The four guys in this match. Yourself, Batista, Undertaker, Mysterio, four guys, four very different styles, I think. Mm-hmm. How do you see that coming together? How hard is it to get a match with just four guys that different to come together?
I think it comes together a lot easier than you would think, just because it's going to be very action-packed. You know, there's always going to be something going on. And I think styles make fights. You know, different styles make the fight. And, you know, Rey's high flyer, you know, Undertaker's unstoppable, Batista's powerhouse, and I don't know what I would be. What would you classify me as? I don't know.
It's a unique, like your own style.
Okay, I'm unique. Cool.
Which isn't a bad thing.
No.
Going back to SmackDown versus Raw in terms of shows, we had John Morrison here. I think it was maybe only 2 weeks after the draft. He was talking about going to SmackDown. He said things very similar to what you just said. And one of the points we talked about was it does seem to be almost like the younger show. You got guys like yourself, John Morrison, kind of like the up-and-comers, but yet they do a good job of mixing you guys with the Undertakers and Mysterios, guys that have been there a long time. I mean, how does that all come together? Do you kind of see it the same way? It seems like you guys got a good mix of older and younger guys.
You know, I don't see it as the younger show, age-wise or anything like that. I see it as the wrestling show. I see Raw as more of a soap opera-y kind of environment. ECW is sort of like the training ground for Raw and SmackDown, and I think SmackDown it's way more of your old school, typical wrestling show. You get more in-ring action and less diva soap opera antics.
And you've been on all three shows now. Is there one that you prefer now? I mean, obviously, it seems like you've really taken off since you've got to SmackDown. Was that just in terms of time and career-wise, or is it just a formula of that show that's kind of allowed you to kind of find yourself that way?
It's a good mix of both. You know, right place, right time. Yeah. I think that people are always wanting something new and something different. You know, no matter how good somebody is, they tend to run their course. People get a little, tired of them and it gets stale. So, as soon as I was put on SmackDown, it was something new, something different. And I did the thing with Jeff, and it's still new and it's still different, and it hasn't run its course yet. So.
And how was, you mentioned the feud with Jeff Hardy. How was that, just in terms of fan reaction? Because I think, you guys, in terms of popularity-wise, are up there towards the top. I mean, it seemed like the fans really ate that up. Did you guys just feed off of that energy? Just going out there every night?
Absolutely, and that's what it was based off of. To me, it was real.
Yeah.
It was the two guys that were fan favorites, and the crowd kind of sided with the one guy, and it made for a very real, dramatic tension.
And I think the thing that really worked with that is there were a lot of your own personalized. You're straight edge, and obviously, Jeff has had his troubles, and to put those two together and using the storyline, I think just added that extra element that you maybe don't get with just the regular, run-of-the-mill feud.
Precisely. Like I said, there was a real underlying tension there. Just today, I had a 13-year-old kid told me that I made him cry when I beat Jeff in the cage match. So you don't get that a lot anymore.
No, that's what I want to ask you. How has your reaction, probably more so from kids, been since turned to become a bad guy? Because pretty much start off as a good guy, we're cheered right away. I mean, how do
they hate me, and it's lovely.
I mean, pretty much anybody who attacks Jeff Hardy, was getting booed anyway.
But there's something that really resonated this time around. It wasn't just the bad guy beating up the good guy. Jeff was truly loved and admired, and people just they still can't believe what I did.
Yeah.
And they're still shocked by it. People are still really, really, really upset, and you don't get that very much often anymore.
No, you don't.
Real, genuine reactions. I don't think people don't just boo me because I'm the bad guy. They boo me because they genuinely have a great dislike for me because I can just push the buttons. I can get under their skin.
Yeah, it's funny. Like now that I'm older, like when I was a kid, obviously, Bret Hart was my guy. So anybody who touched Bret, I'm booing. Now being older, I see guys like yourself, Chris Jericho, Edge, who are technically supposed to be bad guys. But I've watched these guys for since I was a kid. I'm like, they're pretty good at what they do. So
Right.
it's a different. Do you see different reactions based on maybe the demographic, or like maybe some older fans who are a little bit wiser?
Oh yeah, and it depends on what part of the country you're in.
Oh, okay.
Certain cities like certain types of wrestlers. And Philadelphia is and always will be. They will love their villains.
Yeah.
It's just always the way it is. A couple other places are like that. I think Montreal or Toronto, and they're like that.
Yeah, you still hear you screwed Bret chants,
Exactly.
like 12 years later
Yeah,
now.
I mean, it's like, give it up.
Yeah. Which I want to ask you about that. You guys kind of parodied that angle a little bit with The Undertaker not too long ago. How did that all come about? How did you like doing that? Because it's funny, I mean, literally 12 years later, we're still talking about it.
Yeah, I liked it and I didn't. I liked it for the fact of what it was. I was working with The Undertaker, and
Yeah.
it was a natural progression of a story. And I don't like dwelling on the Montreal screw job thing. I'm the kind of guy that in anything in my life, I like new things.
Yeah.
Not just the same old stuff rehashed. And they've kind of beat the dead horse with that thing. And to do it one more time, it would have meant more if they never went back to it and did it before. But same building and everything. Like I get it. But
Yeah.
I like new creative things.
And going with new, I think that's something SmackDown has done really well. I mean, Raw, it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's pretty much been your Triple H's, your John Cena's, your Randy Orton's at the top for a while.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at the SmackDown main events, the past couple of pay-per-views, there's been guys like you, Hardy, Undertaker, Mysterio, just a good mix of guys. And I think that's definitely helped to keep it fresh. Would you probably agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a little bit mind-boggling if you look at the main events for like the past 5 years.
Yeah.
It's always the same guys.
Exactly.
And these guys are tested and they're reliable, but you can't make new stars without throwing guys out there.
Agreed.
And a lot of people think I'm a new star, but I mean, I've been wrestling for 12 years. So it's just like, I know what I'm doing out there. My time should be now. I want to take it while I can.
Yeah, because I remember even when you debuted in ECW, I was looking up some stuff before you came in. I was like, I think was it 2006? Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I debuted on TV in 06.
And I guess to me it doesn't seem that long, but I guess it has been a good 3 years since you've been around. But you've had a pretty good progression
I've
from
done
that.
a lot of stuff in 3 years.
Yeah, I know it goes fast.
Yeah.
And that was another thing. I think ECW was a great show for you. Guys like you, Kofi Kingston, guys to debut on, kind of let you find your footing a little bit before you do get to go to the Raws or the SmackDowns.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what ECW is for, And I think if you're a wrestling fan, you want to watch ECW because of that, because you can see where the next superstars come from.
Yeah, and a little bit, almost kind of like a cut-down version of SmackDown, where, like you said, it is just kind of pretty much just wrestling. There's not a whole lot of the soap opera elements.
Right.
You probably know you're going to get maybe like 3 or 4 good matches, a couple backstage segments, and then if you want just an hour of wrestling, that's where you can go. I wanted to ask you, the straight edge lifestyle, was that something you always wanted to bring into your gimmick? Did that just kind of happen? Or
Something I always did. I mean, the first time I ever did that was, I want to say, the first time I was in a ring, I had my hands X'd up, and I was doing the straight edge means I'm better than you. So, I did that in 1997.
Oh, okay.
And that was just something that, when they first put me on TV, I was completely dumbfounded that they want to make the drug-free kid the good guy. I was like, this is not going to work, and I was wrong. It worked.
I was going to say, you were
there's different ways you can skew it, and obviously we're skewing it in a different way right now.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, it seems like you could go, if you want to be a good guy, you can fight off that way. You want to be a bad guy.
Yeah, I'm so much more comfortable this way. What you see is what you get. Obviously I'm not running down the street, slapping cigarettes out of people's mouths, but the material works because it's absolutely 100% real. It comes from the heart.
Do you find it is easier to, I've heard a lot of wrestlers say in the past, it's easier to be a bad guy. Do you think that's the case? It's easier to get people to boo you than, I guess, as long as you're getting the right boos.
I think some guys are good at certain, roles. One of my trainers told me that to truly be the villain, you first must be truly loved.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's very Shakespearean.
Yeah, that is.
Because you need to turn it all around and kind of stab them in the heart. Once you really have their attention and they really love you, you can flip it. It might be easier to start. It's easier to kind of stick your tongue out at people. And,
yeah.
threaten them and get them to boo you. It is a little bit difficult, especially if you have like a mohawk and tattoos to get people to like you.
Yeah.
But it's different for everybody, I think.
I think I would agree with that too. It seems to mean more maybe if you do start off as the good guy. I mean, it's hard to keep guys, good or bad for an extended period of time. Like when Hogan turned back in the day, he'd been good for the better part of 2 decades.
His entire career.
Yeah, same thing kind of goes when Brett did the whole anti-America thing. I think it means a little bit more if you can build these guys up as good guys. When they do turn, it's kind of like, I can't believe he did that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I want to ask you a little bit about, you were on the SmackDown 10th anniversary DVD. You've grown up watching this stuff. What's some of your favorite moments from that show? I guess whether you were involved in it or not, because you were featured on there a lot.
Yeah, this is the funny thing. They anytime there's a new DVD, they want certain people to come in and talk about it.
Okay.
I don't know why I always get picked. Apparently, I don't.
Must be giving good answers.
I must. But the thing was, they rattle off all these. Would you remember this moment? Do you remember this moment?
Oh, okay.
And the thing about it was when SmackDown started, I was already wrestling.
Oh, okay.
And I was gone, all the time, so I would never actually, I don't remember half that stuff. They were telling me things that happened, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm watching it for the first time, and I have to, comment on
Oh,
it.
yeah, it was great.
I'm like, yeah, I remember that when I watched it 3 seconds ago. It was
Yeah.
great. So, now you know the secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, my SmackDown moments, because I would always go out of my way to watch anything and everything Eddie Guerrero did.
Yeah.
Because Eddie was awesome. So that to me, that's SmackDown. SmackDown was always like Ray and Eddie's show.
Is there one era that sticks out to you that was your favorite? I mean, did you like the Hogan era? Maybe like the new generation? A lot of people still point back to the Attitude Era.
Yeah, but like I said earlier, I started wrestling in '97, so that was deep into the Attitude Era. To me, I think the era, and I don't even know if you have a name for it, but like the Brett and Shawn era.
Yeah.
Vince was indicted by the government on this wacky steroid charge, so all of a sudden he pushed to the forefront guys that ultimately were, they're my size. And I saw myself, this is what I want to do, and that's sort of how the evolution of how I got into it, came to be. And then, my favorite wrestling is Japanese wrestling. I just love the style. I love it, how it's presented as a sport, as a hard hitting, MMA type sport. And so, once I got into wrestling outside of the WWE, I just kind of devoured everything.
Okay.
And I toured England extensively, went to Japan for a couple different companies a bunch of different times. Did Puerto Rico, and I just kind of soaked up everything from everywhere I could go.
And it seems like in terms of your style, because it is very unique, especially your in-ring work, you kind of came about at the right time, and stuff like MMA is taking off, and you use a lot of locks and kicks and stuff like that. It seemed like it really came together at the right time with stuff just outside of wrestling that was going on.
Yeah.
Now I want to ask you, I'm sure everybody asks you what the CM stands for. I'm not going to ask you to give that away if it does stand for anything, but what's either the best story maybe a fan has told you they thought it stood for, or what's one of the best, just made up kind of throwaway lines?
There's always some good signs in the crowd. I can't really say what they mean, what they say, because there's, it's pretty not PG. But they're, the fans are rather creative, making signs, it's the championship material and all kinds of things about monkeys and all kinds of other stuff. I can't.
So you kind of see that when you're in there and just kind of look and be like, oh, that's a new one,
Yeah, I think it's hilarious. Nothing beats that,
And real quick before I let you go, any guy from any era you wish you could have faced, whether, current, that guy on the roster you haven't squared off yet, or someone from back in the day, anybody come to mind, or any guys?
Harley Race.
Really?
Without a doubt, yeah. I love to wrestle like good surly 1974 Harley Race.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone earlier today, you and Stone Cold, especially with, your gimmick being would have been a shoe-in. I mean,
hey man, he ain't dead.